Alright, so the time does as it does every 3 months to talk about the new Destiny 2 season. This time around, we're gonna be talking about Destiny 2 Season of the Witch. Now, the reason why I cover these is because I still play Destiny. I still like Destiny despite the amount of shit I have thrown its way. I still think Destiny is a pretty good game overall. And I think there's a lot of good things to talk about with Destiny, and I also think there's a lot of bad things. In addition, I'm hugely addicted to it. Who am I trying to kid? I mean, I am in the basement, in the attic, sniffing my Destiny 2 cocainium. Like, I am maxing on the addiction here. So I definitely feel like I played enough to talk about it. And at this point, Season of the Witch is sort of officially over. We've had the last big story drop. We have had everything but Festival of the Law so far. We have just had the last part of the Master Crota raid. So it's sort of a good time to just talk about it instead of doing it like I usually would at the last week of the season, because it's way too heist very quickly. So I think it's just time to talk a little bit about it. So let's get straight into it, and let's just talk about the good and the bads of Season of the Witch. Now, to quickly summarize Destiny 2 Season of the Witch, in terms of story, it is a season where we yet again deal with Savathun. This time we're going to be reviving her, so Ares can absorb her power. As things would turn out, we need Finch's help, and he is great as always. Just like Savathun in the one cutscene we have with her, she's fantastic. In my opinion, the season story is overall fairly alright. It's nothing special. It's nothing too bad either. It's just in the middle impact where I didn't really care for most of it. Partially because throughout the entirety of the story, it's all thrown out there as just been, oh no, we need to do this, we need to do that, when the reality is I just want to know what happens with the witness at this point. Like, I don't care about Savathun right now. I don't care about Finch. I don't care about anything. It feels sort of shoehorned in there, like, oh no, but also Silver Ref is attacking. Prepare your battle stations, right? Like, it feels super weird. It feels super tacked on, in my opinion. And that's simply because we have the overarching narrative right now with the witness, where unless read into lore, in my opinion, this doesn't make any sense. This has nothing to do with it. What are we learning here? What does this have to do with the pale heart of the traveler? How do we go through the portal? We don't know. While I understand that you can't take a narrative like that and stretch it out for a way here, I don't understand why they wanted us to go this route either, where we're dealing with a completely third and pretty much useless problem at this point. Like, it's the equivalent of the Black Armory days, where the story seems completely separate to what's happening within the main sort of events of the game. Now, I don't read into lore, and maybe there's a bunch of lore reasons and stuff, but like overall, this just, in my opinion, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It is yet again just the seasonal narrative, so it doesn't matter too much, but at least with Season of the Deep, I could see the point. Like, the big fish knew a bunch of information about the witness and shit, so like it made sense to try to work with her, but like now we just stop in Zero Wrath because stop Zero Wrath, I guess. Again, it's nothing huge, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but it sort of does summarize the season fairly well as just being more filler. Now, when it comes to the season and the story, we also have to talk about the seasonal activities. This time we have two. We have the Spire of Savathun, or the Witch's Spire, and then we have the Summoning Circle or Summoning Pits, or whatever, depending on your translation of the game. In the Spire, we have this giant mission area, sort of like a strike and whatnot, where you go through different rooms, clear out a bunch of enemies, do some different objectives, and then you get to the end with a giant boss fight and a chest. It's another seasonal activity. It's like every other fucking seasonal activity in the last, 3 years. I have such a burnout of the formula at this point that I borderline didn't play for 6 weeks, and then I just caught up. Because the reality is, it's just you have a set of objectives that leads into the same boss fight that you've seen a million times before. It's not that interesting, it's not that deep, it's not that fun, in my opinion. I think they did a really interesting thing by having a card system there, essentially very much like a roguelike. You would draw a different card that could mean something different for your run. As an example, there's one where you generate more heavier, do more solar damage, and all of that stuff. That's an interesting system, but I think the entire activity in it of itself is sort of flawed already, so I wasn't a big fan of it. Now, it has gotten pretty good reception though, so that's a good thing, and maybe I'm just a cynical idiot at this point, I don't know, but it definitely wasn't my personal favorite. It's nothing special, but it's nothing bad either. Like, I would rather play The Witcher Spy than I would play something like anything from Season of the Deep, like period, all of it. In terms of the other season activity, the summoning circle, it's essentially just an endless mode, which is fairly fun. It doesn't ramp up in difficulty or have any reason really for keeping you going, which I don't quite understand. Since generally speaking, with the other wave-based modes we have had, such as Escalation Protocol, the main reason why you wanted to make it hard and go to the highest tier was to get those rewards, like the Escalation Protocol shotgun at the time, or the SMG back when it first came out, right? Like, you wanted to go for those, you didn't really just want to do it for the sake of doing it. Here, the only difference is that you get slightly more of the normal loot that everybody else just is getting for running them normally. And I guess it counts more towards some of the cards, because the cards that you are getting, they have an objective you need to complete before you can use them. And the higher the tier, the faster that objective goes. However, if you're running the lowest tier, you can complete it so fast that it basically makes running the highest tier kind of pointless anyway. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, there needs to be an incentive to run the highest tier, in my opinion, like a direct loot incentive. Otherwise, I just don't think people will care enough to do it. So a couple of ideas for that could just be cosmetics, right? Like, include some seasonal cosmetics that are tied into running the highest tier, like just a random drop by the end. I think that could be a fine way to do it, and it needs to be there from the start, by the way. It doesn't need to be added in or shoehorned in later. It just needs to sort of be there if we're ever going back to that system. Again, it's a fine event. It's nothing like that's super special. The activity itself is just another seasonal activity, right? Because at the end of the day, at the moment, I'm just looking forward to the episodes, but like, there isn't a whole lot to do right now, because the weapons themselves we are getting from are good, but like, at the same time, I'm running an activity that feels so similar that it feels like I've done it a million times before. I have borderline not played it, not because I think it's in particularly bad, I just don't think it's fun either. And when it comes to the weapons, because obviously rewards are a huge part of the reason why we run these things, they are fairly alright-ish. I would say the hand cannon apparently has some good rolls, that people are saying Eye of the Storm and Killing Wind is a good combo on it for PvP if you're into that. It's definitely not the hand cannon I would pick for PvE. Like, the armor is fine as well, and Aramite diffusion rifle is fucking awesome. It has that from Golden Control Burst, which is just a really fun combo. Or maybe it's Assassin and Control Burst. Like, it's a good gun, like a legitimately good gun. And I think I can say that with like most of the guns, they're just semi-decent to good, right? Like, they're nothing that I would die to get. The rocket launcher can be good if you don't have either a hothead, if you don't have a cold comfort or an apex predator, right? Like, if you have none of those, then I suppose the rocket would be good as well. But at the moment, there's just nothing that's super like special about them that will make me want to go out of my way to grind them either. Other than Aramite. Aramite is the exception. Aramite is fantastic. And I think that's overall practically it when it comes to seasonal rewards and stuff. Like, then we had Quota Send, obviously, which I feel like it's its own separate thing, because the day one modifier on it was extremely hard. For one, my team didn't get it this time around. And you know what? I think that's great. I think it's a really good modifier and a really good place to have the balance at, where it doesn't feel like I'm going into a actual joke of an activity like a dip with Route of the Disciple. No, not of the Disciple, Root of Nightmares. Like, Root of Nightmares was super easy. I think it's a good difficulty switch to have it in Quotas. I think it's a good place to have it for now. And then maybe in the future we look to bump it up more. But right now I think Quotas in a really good spot. In terms of loot, I am happy to say that I like almost all of the Quota loot. The pulse rifle feels really good for PvE. The auto rifle, the best Defiant, I have in a depth version with Outlaw Kill Clip that I've been dicking around with in PvP, and that thing slaps when it has max range, like mine. the hand cannon has some really interesting roles, like repulsive brace and destabilizing rounds for void builds, but there's also like other roles. Like the one that I'm using in general right now would be Subsistence and Rampage, or Demo Adrenaline Junkie is also another good set of roles. Like there's so many options on it that it's actually kind of crazy. The Raid Loot is just in general really good. The shotgun itself has some of the best PvP perks, like straight up. I've seen a couple of my friends nod a little bit over it because slide shot, opening shot, right? Like there are a lot of good combos in it, and there's a lot of good reason to play King's Fall, because it is a legitimately good raid. In addition, Necrochasm is just crazy in PvP, especially since it's literally an auto rifle primary cloud strike. Like if you're near that cursed fraud explosion, you are dead. And its TTK is insane. In PvE, I haven't seen too much buzz about it, but it's a cool looking gun, so who cares? It's pretty, it's great. Other than that, I feel like Crota is honestly just a really fun raid. I think it's a really good reprise. I think there's nothing bad to be said about it, really. Maybe the first encounter is a little bit too long for my taste. I feel like it goes on for a while. But that's also just my inability to pay attention to anything for more than 5 seconds that kicks in, so I suppose. I think it's a really good raid, though, overall. I think it's one that I'm going to be enjoying for a while. And yeah, I don't think there's much more to be said on Crota. Coming over to other things such as the Vanguard Strike players in Crucible and Gambit. I mean, like I predicted with my prediction doing the Destiny drama that happened a couple of months ago, where they essentially announced that you didn't have to play Gambit anymore for your weekly rewards. I think Gambit is it. I have played exactly 3 matches of Gambit, and they took forever to find, and yeah, it's just not a play game right now. Crucible, however, I'm happy to say Trough hasn't changed at all. It's still Dominion, which sucks ass and has completely ruined Trough for me. I don't care enough to play because Dominion is legitimately bad. The meta after the knockout changes has gotten slightly more healthy, with some other classes seeing more play than they did before. However, knockout is still really good, and the Void Shield Titan, especially in Trials, especially because of zone control, is insane to go against. It is just insanely good at the moment. And it was good before, but now if you're going up and see with 3 Titans that just gotta plunk down barricades and have an instant overshield, there's just not a lot you can do about it. And that's not me complaining by any means. I just think it sort of ruins the meta when even the in-game players I play with, like people who are in the top 500 Trials players in the world, they're like, if you're going into Trials and you're going in for a win, you're gonna go and Void Titan, otherwise you aren't playing, right? And that's not to say you can't play anything else. Obviously, people can find success with other things. It's just to say that the meta is heavily favoring Titans right now. In terms of weapons, it's the same old, same old. SMGs are still good. Hand cannons have seen a little bit more of a resurgence after the zoom changes. In addition, Cloud Strike is still really fucking good despite it being nerfed, because it can still for some reason hit directly through flinch, which as a Cloud Strike user I am fairly happy about. Because Cloud Strike good means that my gun, my favorite little baby, is still good. I can still get up to however many kills I end up having on it. In terms of what I care about, though, the Grandmaster situation right now is fairly alright. They have been porting in the battlegrounds, both the Defiant and the Moon ones, like, not the Moon, the highest battlegrounds, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I'm not against it either. I understand that if we want to have more content at this point, it seems like that's the only way they're gonna do that, like by porting in other things. And what I would prefer them not to, I would prefer at that point just to have some old story missions or something imported in. Then I suppose it's fine. It's nothing big. It's fairly easy in my opinion, like not that difficult. And yeah, it is what it is, man. The weapons, however, are pretty fucking cool. The main shout-out for me, like, might come as a surprise, is my Warden's Laws are back. Like, my baby is back. I have an old Warden's Law back when it came out with 25,000 PvE kills on it and Rampage Feeding Frenzy. And while that role doesn't exist anymore, the fact that you don't have a moving target kill clip for PvP or light in action Rampage for PvE, it's just kind of crazy. The change they made to it made it feel really good already. Like, I am already in love with it. I'm keeping 4 rolls and then over 50 GMs that weekend. and I absolutely love it. I think it's such a good gun. I think it's really fun to play with, like it was before. It feels unique still and everything. Just an overall good price. As a Warden's Law lover before, I can definitely say 10 out of 10 chef's kiss. Really good change, and I think it's a really good gun and worth grinding for, actually. In addition to that, I feel like it's worth covering the glitch that happened earlier this season. That might be the one thing to make the season stand out the most for people, which is the weapon crafting glitch, where you could put any frame on any weapon, meaning that you could have a shotgun that fired like an auto rifle, but more prominently known as an auto rifle that fired the same amount of pellets as a shotgun with whatever perks you wanted. It was fairly crazy. I had basically that, and I had a linear fusion rifle that fired like a shotgun as well. So I was using price contempt, but I had a pellet spread instead of just a single bullet doing the same amount of damage as I normally would per bullet, but just having more, which means that you could do some of the GMs in 5 minutes. It was kind of crazy, definitely a fun little glitch to happen, and we're getting an emblem to commemorate it, and you know what, I'm happy for it. I think it's cute, I think it's great, I think it was a nice little event to sort of wrap up the entire thing. And I suppose the last thing that really is to speak on at this point is just really what's happening with Festival of the Lost, despite it not being out yet. Festival of the Lost has for a couple of years remained the same, and it seems to this year as well. We're still having the 100 sectors, it seems, and in addition, they've announced that now you're going to have Ingram focusing, which I'm excited for, because that means that there's got to be a unique Ingram to Festival of the Lost, and I usually just like to look at the visuals for the Ingrams. So that's pretty cool. You can also focus exotic armor. There's some specifics. You can go into the latest trough to see it. As of the time of recording this video, I'll link it in the description. I think it's pretty cool, like as a system. Festival of the Lost clearly isn't changing much. It's gotta be same old, same old. If you like that, that's good. If you don't, that's not so good. But like, it is what it is. It's an event. Who cares at this point? Because every event in Destiny seems to just be an excuse for storefront, right? Like, it's another way to make you look at Eververse. So, with that being said, I think that's about what I have to say. I think the future of Destiny is looking up still. I am definitely looking forward to the final shape. I think it looks so cool. And it's one of those things where I think once that comes out, I'm going to get a lot of my will to play back again as well. Also, just partially for the idea of playing with the people I've been playing with for so long, and the final expansion of the game we've been following for upwards of 7 years. It's a really cool idea, like, to lead up to this big end. I am mildly worried though with the fact that we haven't heard anything about any big expansions afterwards. Like, are they getting rid of those in favor of seasons, or not seasons, episodes, or like, what are they doing? Regardless though, I'll be tagging along at least for the next year of the journey, and I mean, again, it looks bright. I think the changes they've announced for Final Shape are really cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything pans out. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the rest of the season. I hope you have a great Halloween, a good Festival of the Lost, and I hope you enjoy the shit out of the game, because that's what we're all meant to do at the end of the day.